Hello and welcome. This is Jim Kaufman with Rankin Technical College. So today, welcome to week 16. Congratulations on reaching the final week of this course. Just some things I want to go over today. First, I did want to do a quick preview of the Maui Lab App 4. And I wanted to also go through some C# concepts and interview questions. And then after that, I wanted to go ahead and, just talk about some next steps as far as some things you can do as a student, kind of to start, getting ready for a job, getting ready, building that resume, and so forth. So I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. And then I'm just going to do a quick preview of the next course, which will be starting on January the 8th, which is Web Development Technologies. And also wanted to mention that all assignments must be submitted no later than December 15th, this next Sunday, by midnight. Okay. First, let's go ahead and take a look at that app. So this Maui Lab 4 is basically a news app, and we are actually using a API in this. We're actually calling a program application programming interface that brings back data, and this is this news app here, right? And so we've got we're also using what's called Font Awesome that creates these fonts, okay? And we have fonts also down here at the bottom. And this is the home screen. So you can, down here, you got headlines. And then also you got news. So there's just headline news, and this is just all news. You can click on these links, and it'll display the article. Okay. And you go back here using the back arrow. And you've got local news. I don't know if this is quite local news, but that's okay. And this is global. I think they're basically the same here. But, not that that can't be achieved. That's kind of another step, I guess, more than anything. But, this is a fully functional app. It's kind of cool compared to, some little things that we've done in the past. So just kind of want to show you what this looks like. And I'm going to go through, I was going to originally do a code along with this. But the app's actually, the assignment, the lab 4, it's about 35 pages long. But a lot of it is just explanations and stuff, which is obviously good to go ahead and read the explanations of what you're doing there. But if you don't read all of it, you can still actually make it through that and build the app without reading and understanding each thing there. Okay, so let's just bring that up real quick. So here's the Maui Lab 4, and please be careful when you're cutting and pasting the code. Please take your time on that. So like I said, this is about 35 pages long. And then there's just you're gonna have to do, it's gonna be a lot of cut and pasting of the code. So you just need to follow along, especially when you see the numbers 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So you want to read through what you're doing there. Make sure you're creating the right classes and folders, etc. Okay. Some other things I wanted to point out here on this is we are using some. Like I said, we were using that Font Awesome. And so that Font Awesome thing, you'll have to download that. And it'll tell you here. Let's search for that real quick. There we go. So Font Awesome's right here. So here you browse to this Font Awesome. You download it. Make sure you get the free for desktop. And you just follow the directions. Okay. And so right here, this is the website, fontawesome.com/download. And make sure you choose the right one here because you got ones for the web, right? You want to make sure you do the free for the desktop. You want the free one for the desktop. So that's the one you choose. And you'll go ahead and download that, and then you just follow those directions. Let's see what else I want to mention here. So the other thing we're doing here is also we're using an API. So we're making a call to a service that's going to return data, and this news API. So you'll have to go to newsapi.org, okay? And this is the website right here, and you'll have to go ahead and create an account. Here you go and log in. I've already got an account, but you'll have to log in. It might, yeah. So here, you don't have one, get one here. So go ahead and click this, create an account, okay? And for that account, it will be a developer, and the it's free for a developer, totally free, but your own articles, it's limited to 100 requests per day, so you can't go beyond that. So if you spend a lot of time playing around with it, you may reach that maximum. So you only can do 100 requests per day. Okay. So back here to this, as far as getting this data from this news API, you follow the directions here on the lab assignment here. But I just want to kind of mention what this is returning. This is returning JSON, a JSON object. And JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Okay, and what that will do is, this is kind of a little example. Actually, I just show you the real data here. But here's a DigitalOcean. This is a website, very popular website for developers and stuff. Just kind of showing you, talking a little bit about what a JSON object is, right? Just kind of an introduction to JSON, and showing you what it looks like. So this is a very small basic document, okay? And this is what it kind of looks like. So this is the data that's going to be, being brought into your app, and you will be parsing this data, right, to create that screen with all the images and the news articles and the links and everything else, right? So here is actually when you make your call. This is what. I'm just showing you this in the browser. This will be happening behind the scenes within your app. But this is the actual call to get the data from there. And as you can see, this is a JSON object. And here's your different, your different things. You got status, total results, articles. So yeah, this is just kind of a total thing. And then each one will have an ID and a name, source, right? Author, title, description, URL, image, all this information. And so this is what the information we'll be using to display that on the app. Okay. I wanted to show you that. Okay. So nothing else here. And actually, I went ahead and followed these directions. I have made a couple changes, so I might need to do it again myself just to make sure. Because I got this from a source, and it's not quite, wasn't quite, perfect. So I kind of had to make some changes to make it work. But I did test it and it was fine. I did make a couple changes after that. I don't think that they should be a problem, but I will take a look. Just make sure when you're, cutting and pasting, you're doing the right thing here. Make sure that you put your key. Your key is going to look like something like this. It'll be a bunch of letters and numbers, right? And that will be your key. Make sure you have that within double quotes, right? So you want to make sure you have it like that, okay? And then, so there'll be some of these you'll cut and paste the entire code here. And some of these other ones, you'll just notice that you're just going to have some highlighted areas. So just really take your time and look through what you're doing. so you don't accidentally override something you don't need to. So like in here, this is already going to exist in an earlier part of this lab, and you're going to go back in there and make changes. Okay, so this lab kind of doesn't just do everything in that one class. You may create a class, right? And you create kind of a skeleton class, and you're going to be creating these different ones, and then you're going to be coming in here and making some changes throughout this lab. Okay, so it's a little different. It's not like you're just going to come into one class, make all the changes for that class. You add different things, okay, as you go along. So you want to kind of just make sure that you take a good look at this and be careful when you cut and paste. And like I said, it's doing a lot of explaining what is going on here. And obviously that's good for you to do. But in a lot of ways here, the important thing is you make sure you follow the steps. Step 1, step 2, okay, etc. So that's that. Let's see here what we want to cover next. Oh, and then, we got the Maui Lab 3. The Maui Lab 3 is really just a motivational quote. Type 1, it's, much simpler. This Lab 4 is going to take you a lot more time, okay? I've got it around 2 hours. You might run into a problem here and there as far as, and usually it's going to be a cutting and pasting error. So you have to work through that and look, go back through the document if needed. And then if you have any big problems, please contact me and I'll help you. The next thing here, I just kind of want to go over some interview questions because I think it's important, especially being at the end of this course. We covered a lot of things. Let me actually delete some of this stuff. I don't need all this. So I'll go ahead and send you the link to this one. There's obviously a lot of different interview question sites out there. This is a Udemy. This is a 60 common C# interview questions. I know it says 2022 and it's 2024, but almost all these questions are going to be. It's probably not very likely you're going to find something. Oh well, that's different now. Most of these are just basic concept type questions that really don't change much from a couple years ago than they do to now, right? But I think one thing that's really important is, like if a year from now, year and a half from now, if you're finishing up this program, depends on where you're at within this program, but maybe a year and a half from now, you're going to be finishing up this program. And if you kind of just wait until that time and then you're done with everything and then you decide to start, reviewing some of this stuff, you're going to be doing a lot of cramming all the stuff at once. And, when you do that, it's hard to remember, it's hard to remember that stuff. Whereas if you could kind of spend a little bit of time now and then looking at some of these concepts and these questions and kind of get them in your mind, so it'd be a lot easier when you have an interview. Okay. Just when you cram, your retention level is not very good when you just cram, and that's usually what and a lot of people are always going to do that for an interview. But if you can spend a little time, just here and there, going over some of the basics, right? What is a class? You need to be able to understand what is a class. Right? A class is a template to create an object. We know that, right? But sometimes you forget some of it, and then this might expand on something a little differently than what we learned, right? And it contains properties as well as methods, right? We can create many instances of objects from a single class, right? What are the main concepts of object-oriented programming, right? Encapsulation, abstraction, polymorphism, and inheritance. These are ones that it takes a while to really grasp all these different concepts, these object-oriented programming concepts. And it'd be a good idea because, it's very likely you go to interviews, they're going to ask you about object-oriented programming. And if, you need to have an answer for these types of things. And you need to be able You don't have to know in depth necessarily, but you have to pretty much have an understanding of what they mean, right? You just don't want to go on an interview and not really have, oh, yeah, well, we talked about that, but I don't really remember a lot of what it was. That's not going to be a good answer for you, right? What is an object, right? An object instance of a class, right? What is a constructor? A lot of good questions here. Um, Here's one I kind of wanted to point out is what is a namespace? Namespace isn't required. You can create classes and so forth. You don't have to have that namespace, but it is actually, suggested. And a namespace is, what is a namespace? So it's a collection, right, of your classes, all with organizing your classes, and grouping them together, right? But also, what's besides just organize them, another benefit is, sometimes you could have a class with the same name. And especially you see how in this course, we've used some of those system type classes that we bring in, and then maybe you're actually bringing in classes from other sources as well. Well, sometimes if you have a class, you have the same name of a class that you're using in your program yourself, and there's also another class that from an external site, you know by using that namespace, that will help you to distinguish. Even if you even have the same name, it's a way to distinguish between them and avoids like clashing, right? So you have to keep things like that in mind, right? But a lot of good questions in here. I'd learn to spend some time now and then just going through some of these concepts. It'll make things much more easy. Much better. It'll make things better for you when interview time comes, right? And these are good ones. Abstraction and polymorphism. You gotta really need to understand these concepts so you can explain them. Define an interface. What's the difference? When do you use an interface? When do you use a class? Right? What does abstract mean? These are all important concepts that are you should be able to uh, to answer in an interview. Okay. What is inheritance? So I'm not going to go through all of these, um, but I just want to kind of point this out. It's a good idea to kind of learn these things a little bit here and there throughout the next 2 years. You're within this program and really pay off for you in the end. The next thing I kind of want to go over here a little bit is so one thing I would do, so the sooner the better. Get yourself a res, build yourself a resume, right? Um, and this is one of the students. He actually got a job right after he graduated. He had actually had the job before he graduated, and so he built some things on his own. He built this lone web app. He built this himself. This is the Mern Stack. The Mern Stack is the one that this is a second year course. This is the database driven one course, which is the MERN stack, which MERN stands for Mongo, Express, React, and Node. That's what MERN stands for. And it's a web development, web application stack. Okay. But he created one besides just what we were doing in course. He created his own, right? And also he created this a clothing web app, another one. So he had two different ones. So like I helped him with this resume, and one thing I suggested is go ahead and put your put your software development projects kind of first in your resume. Um, it kind of depends on what you're doing, and if you've got a lot of if you somehow have some experience, some real coding experience, you can put your job experience. But if your job experience is, and nothing wrong with working in fast food restaurants and everything else. I've worked in restaurants myself in my life and other things like that. But things like that. A lot of people do suggest you always put job experience first. But I kind of think it's best to put the things that kind of is more relevant for the job. If you're going for a software programming job, you should have your software development projects. Okay. And so you can obviously include the ones that you created as part of this class, right? Or this whole program, I should say. But if you create some some other apps that are outside this class, them are always good to list, especially if there's this like has a real business case that you're actually build something that's being used by someone, them are ones, that be very beneficial to list here, right? This student here, these were just ones that he created himself, that, really didn't have a real user group using them, but they were still, he kind of took things that we were doing in the class and took it to the next level, which was great. Um, so another part of this resume is I suggest that you put your technical skills. So right now, we're just finishing up C sharp, so you can add C sharp, right? Even though you can't add anything after that, um, you know, you can add C sharp. So you can build your first, your I would create your first your resume, and then just keep on developing it as you go, and think about things you want to add to it. So these all these technical skills were all things that he learned within this program. So obviously we haven't gotten there yet. This is the C sharp course, so you can add C sharp, the web development stuff. This next course will be taken this next semester in spring of 2025. We'll be learning HTML5, CSS, Bootstrap. Um, we will do a little bit of React, a little bit of Node right towards the end of the class. But this will also be used extensively in that database driven one course, which is second year. Okay. Um, Probably JavaScript. He probably should have just mentioned JavaScript. Oh, JavaScript's up here, programming language. Sorry. And then database management stuff. So we've already done a little bit of SQL, right? So you've got that. MongoDB. That's a second year technology. And then here's the development tools. Visual Studio Code, um, which is different than Visual Studio. And I kind of do want to mention that to you if you don't realize it, because in the C Sharp course we use Developer Studio 2022 community version. In the HTML course, we're going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is a different product. Okay. And then here's some other things we've used too within the program. Postman, MongoDB, Atlas, Compass, etc. Version control, GitHub. So some of the stuff you can actually create right now, right? Because you use some of these things. So I'd create a basic a resume template and start building it from there. Okay. As far as education, he included you know all four of the different courses that we had. And this was my suggestion to him, kind of do it like this. And one thing I did want him to, kind of make it obvious. I don't know how important this is, but, this is a 14 credit hour course, whereas, a lot of times in colleges, they're 3 hour, 3 credit courses, 3 hour credit. And, I thought it was worth saying this is a 14 credit hour course. This isn't just, some 3 hour course that, I went through, right? So it's a much more significant, right? And then put your job experience as well. So, I think it's worth doing this. And also for this student, obviously, I kind of mentioned maybe, you should change your pitch there a little bit, but that's okay. He ended up getting a job, so it's all right. But this was his portfolio he put together, and this is actually deployed out to GitHub, and we'll learn how to do this in the HTML CSS class. We'll learn how to deploy some things out to GitHub. So this is his portfolio that's been out there probably for a couple years now, right? So we'll go ahead and learn how to do that in the next course. But you just letting you know that this is what you're going to want to kind of build. You kind of want to build this throughout build this throughout this program. So he has different things here as well. Um, let's see here. This is some of his own stuff. Yeah, window forms apps. So here's another thing he did is some of the things we've done in this course, and I think there's a couple here different than some will look very similar because we've done it before. A couple of these were from some different apps that were a little different than what we were doing, but the lawn care app, right? I remember that the car designer. So he actually made screenshots and put these out here, and then you can actually click this, and you can go look at his source code he did. Okay, you may or may not want to do it this way. Okay, but just a suggestion. And this is something we'll be working on. This, like I said, this website. This is on out here on Git. This is GitHub here, but this website here, the GitHub dot. This is actually for a web app, right? And so you'll have to make some changes if you really want to have your source code out there, because currently your repository is private, right, for course. And you may not want that all out there. You may actually want to create a different one because you have all those grading things and stuff like that. That's part of your thing. So we talk about that later. But just kind of give you an idea of how this student kind of as he moved through this program, he added things to his resume and to his web portfolio, so to speak, just to build that thing out. Okay. So what else did I want to go over here? So a couple things that will be coming up, probably many people in this class are probably closer to maybe the Wentzville office than St. Louis. I don't know. I shouldn't say that for a fact, but the St. Louis office obviously has in-person classes down there for this application web development program, and actually the whole job fair stuff for this program, it's much more extensive at the downtown St. Louis downtown location. So I highly suggest that you next time there's a job fair down there that you go ahead and attend that downtown. We'll talk about that. I'll send you some information about that before the next job fair down there for the IT. Some of those job fairs are for different areas with different programs within Rankin. But as far as the application web development one, the one down there is pretty substantial. And the thing about it is those companies that are there, those are companies that can usually continually hire people from Rankin, which is good, right? Obviously, obviously when you're start really looking for a job, you can reach out. You're gonna go beyond just the ones that are down there, at the job fair one. But other companies, you don't know how many Rankin graduates they may have hired or what. Whereas the companies that go to the job fair that are there during the job fair, they're continuously hiring Rankin grads. So that's kind of a plus there. Um, so that's, I guess, all I have. But I think another thing is kind of to go back to what I was saying is when you kind of, you need to come up with some of your own software development projects would be a good idea. And especially if you can find some things, like the next course we'll be doing the HTML, CSS. If you can find some nonprofit organization, any kind of organization, maybe where, they need a website built, that's a great thing to be able to add to a resume. So any kind of software development or website type development that you can add to a resume is going to be a big step forward for you and really help you, with having, opportunities to demonstrate what you can do, right? So the next thing I wanted to kind of do here is go through, not a lot, I guess. I wanted to go through this from a perspective of, let me take a look at something. So I went ahead for the next course, the Development Technologies course. I went ahead and made this visible for anybody who wants to see this. There will be some changes I need to go through. I might be changing this grade breakdown as far as the weighting of these different areas. Just a few things I wanted to kind of point out that's maybe a little different than what we did in the C sharp course. So for one thing is there's homework assignments and labs. So there's distinguishes between the two, but really all in all, they're pretty much the same. It's just they're just assignments, right? They're just called homework or lab, but there's not really a big difference between them. So and then in this case, the weighting's 20% for each. So I just wanted to kind of point out that there's kind of an additional kind of an assignment called homework. That was just kind of created at a point in time, and that's the way it is. But here's you can go out to the main page and just look at it a little bit. I do have the first 3 textbook chapters. Okay, and I did want to point out. So here's the 2 books, and we won't be covering every chapter in these books. Okay, but these are the 2 books. As far as I'm trying to see if we can get electronic versions of these. I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be possible. If not, we'll have to ship them out to Wentzville or pick them up down at the St. Louis bookstore. I'll give you more information on that. We got about a month until this course starts, so I'll give you some more information when we get closer on that. As far as textbook chapters, here's the first 3 chapters. How to set up the environment. Things that are different here, you'll see install Visual Source Studio Code. So you're going to want to do that. Install and configure the extensions. Since you're already in the C Sharp course, you're not worried. You've already got Git. You will have to go to a different class, even though you won't have to register. Well, you will. You'll have to still register at a new GitHub classroom, which is right there. Let's see. So if you go to this, you're going to go in here and you're going to choose your name from this list. Okay. And this is early on. There might be some new students who join, but you're gonna pick your name out of this list. Okay, and follow the steps just like you did. We did the same thing at the beginning of this course, but you're gonna have a new repository just for this course. Okay. So I wanted to point that one out to you. What else is a little different here? Clone your repository. So yeah, I mean, you'll still need to follow these steps for the most part. But some of the stuff if you did this before, most of this you're like I said, you're gonna have Git. You're gonna have Git desktop already. You will have to clone your new repository, right? So you'll have to that's part of the steps to set everything up. You'll have to clone there's a template that I've already created for the new course, so you have to clone that. The Discord classroom will be the same one. And I guess that's about it there. I did want to go through GitHub Desktop, just something that's important here. Let me bring that up real quick. So I was just kind of playing around with some things. One thing you're going to want to do is you're going to when you create your new repository, right? You're going to have your old one in here. And I suggest, I already removed mine, right? But the one for the C Sharp, you probably want to do right click and just remove it from GitHub Desktop after the course is over, right? Wait till you're done and you have everything, submit it, wait until after the December 15th. But and if you have some time before the start of the course on January 8th and you get everything set up, I would go ahead and remove your C sharp one just so you don't get confused. So you keep things simple and that way you don't accidentally submit something to the wrong repository, right? So I just kind of want to bring that up. I don't think there is a lot more I wanted to go through. Obviously, there's a new YouTube playlist that there's nothing in it, but I'll be doing a welcome video and we're gonna have some lectures, and then I'll also have some small little videos I'm gonna do on some different areas as well. Um, and then just here's some other resources that you could also use. So that's about it. There's nothing in here. I just all laptop requirements. Well, probably should just say laptop, but this students at the in-person classes have laptops generally. That's why it kind of says laptops. But, you may have a PC as well. Just you just want to make sure you got enough room on your thing. So actually, the C sharp course you probably use a lot more resources on the C sharp course than you did on the that you will use in the HTML one. But still, it all adds up, and so make sure you got plenty of space to do things. But the Visual Studio, which I'll bring that up real quick, if you're not familiar with that. So here's that, and this Visual Studio, this uses a lot less resources. It's a lot lighter as far as the concept of a footprint. The footprint of how much resources that Visual Studio Code uses is a lot less than the Visual Studio 2022 version, right? So this is just we'll go through how all these things work when we start the course, right? So that's about all I have today. So please comment me. Please contact me if you have any questions about anything. And thanks. I enjoyed the time I had with everyone. I think it was a pretty successful course overall, and I think there's, I think people learned a lot. From where you were at the first week and where you're at now. I think you really made a lot of stride and a lot of progress. So please let me know if you have any questions.